Hello and welcome to Future Tech interview series. I am Adnan Saha. Today I am interacting with a science communicator from Vigyan Vizag. He brings science to you in very insightful and delightful manner and engaging way. Welcome sir to our program. How can academic science and science communication come together for popularization of science in the country?
Okay, I think you mean that how can, for example, research institutions of higher learning
Right, sir.
and science academies
Right.
help promote science popularization or take the science to larger people. This, I think, is the purpose and intent of your question. There are many ways this can be actually done. One, of course, here one is not looking at, let's say, formal training, which anyhow will happen in institutions of higher learning. If one looks about people who are not scientists or whose career is not going to be science based, I mean, if that is the population that we are looking at, there are a number of ways in which this institution can help. One is, for example, in India, there has been a tradition of scientific institutions having what is called as open day or a public day, in which people from around are called to the institute and then are shown the facilities and the kind of work that the institution is doing. I think this is one important way in which the community in which this institution is located is able to relate to that institution, which I think is a very, very important aspect. The second is perhaps some scientists or students in this institution are having a bent of mind or a taste for communicating science to public. It's not necessary that everyone should be forced to do it, because that's not their main job. Main job is to do a good research or good teaching or what the institution is mainly mandated to do. But I'm sure there is certainly a small section, a significant section, which might be interested in this. And through that, when they communicate, that also brings in a certain amount of, we can say, authenticity to science communication and
So
science
you want
popularization.
that researchers should come to the field of science communication?
Researchers who have interest and bent of mind should
Bent
come
of
to
mind
the
with
field,
communication.
communication. I mean, they should be provided scope and space, which I think in India it is being provided. We cannot deny that. So more and more people can and should join. Although the primary role and responsibility will be another. The third, many of these institutions in the past have been engaged with science communicators and educators. I mean, in India, the science educators and science communicators, there is a lot of commonality in developing interesting tabletop experiments. Okay. And with the new technologies, new areas, new disciplines, new ideas coming in, one needs to constantly revise this tabletop experiments, which then proves to be a very useful tool for science communication and as well as science education. To give you an example, for example, 10 years ago, mobile phones were not as common as it is today. And there are lots of apps in the mobile phone which can be used very interesting way, which perhaps was not available earlier. Like, for example, many of the mobile phone would be able to measure, for example, sound. So the way you taught acoustics can change today, and academics can come forward to devise novel tabletop experiments or tabletop demonstration, which can help this.
So sir, my next question is how science, technology, engineering and maths is similar and how it can be defined separately?
One of the commonality of what is shortly called as STEM, science, technology, engineering and mathematics, is that it is steeped in naturalism, which means that you don't accept any supernatural or supranatural forces in your explanation. So that is one thing. The second is this is also steeped in what is called as organized skepticism. That is, you don't accept anything as truth that easily. Many people may feel discomfort at this aspect of what is broadly called as scientific thinking, that after all that study has given you proof, then why you are not accepting. The extraordinary reason why science is successful, or other modern science is successful, is because of this caution. that you don't jump to conclusion, that you don't say that we have come to the final answers. You constantly question. It is
Very
only by
sad.
questioning, it is only by trying to prove that something is wrong that you are able to get to the core of the truth. That's, I think, a very commonality of all these things, if you are going to look at from philosophical angle.
Yeah.
Second, if you are going to look at from historical angle, it is STEM in many ways has helped human life to progress. If the average life expectancy in India has gone up, all over the world if it has gone up, if people are living healthier than what they were on the average than let's say 1,000 years ago, or that we are able to understand something more deeply than what we are able to do, it is largely due to effect of STEM, right? So the modern concept of STEM education is slightly different from the disciplines per se, if one has to make a distinction. The modern concept of STEM essentially emphasizes that it is not enough to know a subject, but know it differently. Meaning that it is not enough that you know physics laws or Newton's principles. But if you look at, let's say, middle school, let's say 6th standard, suppose if I can give you a description of many properties of material, and then I ask you a question, given these are the material that we have, which one would be useful as a utensil material? Okay, so now you are looking, comes in something very differently. Now you are looking at, for example, the
Applicative point.
application point of view,
Yeah.
and also in a novel way,
Yeah.
right? But maybe if I ask the question slightly differently, the same set of materials, but now if I ask that which one of it would be good as a building material,
Right.
then you are looking for something else quite differently, right?
Yeah.
So this kind of approach where the emphasis is on application and innovation and creativity. This is the core of STEM that is being talked about, with of course the underlying aspect of critical thinking.
So the underlying aspect of it is critical thinking.
Yeah.
Think with innovation.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. In future, we are talking nowadays about future technologies, that is AI, robotics, automation. So there are many challenges as well as opportunity. What is the preparedness of our country regarding it?
One important aspect of all these emerging areas, if you look at it, be it biotechnology or nanotechnology or AI or all this, these are neither science nor technology. They are techno-science. That's one, I think, is a very, very important aspect which we should not miss.
Yes.
Biotechnology, is it merely a technology like, for example, the earlier, let's say, civil engineering? No, it is not. Biotechnology also involves a deep understanding of science. Otherwise, you can't do biotechnology. Is it merely science? No, it is not. It's also actually working with your hands, right? So this is a novel aspect of this emerging new areas in these all began in the last decades of 20th century, and that has become the mainstay of 21st century. Which means that our earlier idea of disciplines in silos, and each discipline getting into multiple sub-disciplines, have to disappear. So here one is not talking about the old idea of interdisciplinary. It's not even interdisciplinary. It is about how this whole idea of discipline itself it becomes erased, and then very, very holistic understanding is essential. If you look at, for example, let's say robotics, you may have to have expertise in, for example, algorithms, to logics, to electronics.
Right.
Okay, when you say electronics, it means solid state physics,
Right.
right? Which also mean that materials which will be used for it, which means that some or other chemistry comes into play. So this kind of an integration that you see today is very, very novel in human experience.
One more important question for you, sir. What are your recommendations for change in scientific study in the country so that it becomes more of applicative than of theoretical studies?
First of all, I think this distinction that theoretical and application we need to throw away, because in the new idea, when you say critical thinking,
Yeah.
which also means that you should be able to theorize
Right.
and at the same time test your theories by application. So it is a constant feedback of theory and application going together is what is the core. It is not theory or application. That kind of a distinction, I think, first of all needs to go. If you are asking how science education should innovate itself for 21st century, of course, at different levels it has to be differently. One can give some one or two examples by which one can understand this in a different way. See, traditionally, for example, physics concept like, for example, gravitation would not be dealt in primary school. Okay, because you are seeing it from a disciplinary perspective, and you say that if I have to understand gravity, then at least I will have to understand a little bit of Newtonian motion or mechanics, which is not possible at elementary level. That's perfectly fine. But now if you are going to look at the education in completely different fashion and not in this disciplinary fashion, suppose if you perform a small experiment, let's say you take a bowl of maida or atta, and then you take a stone. Let's say you drop the stone from 15 centimeter, okay, and look at the impact. It will have an impact, right?
Yeah.
It will throw away some maida and create a small hole. Now do it from 1 feet. Is it the same? Suppose if I do it from 5 feet, is it the same? It's the same stone, and I have just left it, so I have not given any force. So one can give an explanation, or one can have a feel, that is even a primary school student can have a feel of how gravitation works, and how if an object is thrown from high, then its impact velocity changes. You know, some of this kind of feel one can give, even if one is not going to go into the Newtonian mechanics directly. If you are going to look at, let's say, at middle school level, currently, for example, one of the area that is there in middle school level is optics, where you are teaching ray diagram. Is ray diagram the real description of the reality outside, or is it a model? Modern science understands it as a model, not actually, we don't really think that the light actually travels like a ray. That is, if you assume that light travels like a ray, then you can draw many of the properties. So you are modeling. So we need to teach optics not as in the traditional method, but as how modeling takes place, and how by modeling you can understand certain things and also predict and also see whether that predictions come true. So one can look at in a slightly different fashion. And third, today our understanding of how things are interconnected and how there is huge systems, and this systems perspective we have to tackle right from climate change to AI, and that will also mean that you need to treat things in a completely different fashion. For example, would you want to look at purely the water cycle as merely a cycle, or as a huge global system? You know, we need to look at this 21st century challenges in slightly different way.
And sir, the next question is quite different from this. There are screening process for the entry in the research institution. Do you feel that there is a need for change in the screening process, or it's okay?
Yeah. Number one, in fact, the very idea of screening process itself is necessitated because there are more people who want to get in and the less number of seats. If you look at the number of scientific personnel per million indicator recommended by UNESCO, India is not doing great. In fact, this indicator, if you look at the last and latest science and technology innovation policy, it says that we want to triple it. So, which means that more scientific institutions should come, more opportunities should come. So, I think the focus should not be on screening, but should be on increasing the opportunities for young people, number one. Number two, I think one size will not fit all. And there is no point in producing same prototype. I mean, if you are going to look at innovators, then every person should have certain unique specificities, right? So, which means that having one kind of a screening system is not going to be useful. A particular institution might be interested in a particular way of looking at issues, so you may have a one kind of screening program, but whereas another institution or another program might want a person to have a completely different set of skills, so you may have a completely different set of screening program. So this kind of regimenting screening, I'm not sure is going to help us in 21st century.
And how the scientific potential of the country can be harnessed for the development of the nation as well as well-being of the people.
If you look at the Millennium Developmental Goals, I mean, we are far from reaching it, which is, I think, a goal which has been set, which we are also party in setting it up, tells you that something that is achievable with the current knowledge and technology available. It is not looking for future technologies. That's, I think, an important point to note, which is achievable with the current knowledge and technology, and yet not achieved in many parts of the world. So, if we are going to look at how we are going to achieve this, so that we provide at least the best possible human life to every individual, life with dignity, life with lesser illness, life with certain prosperity, right? So, I mean, what you might call as a humane condition to exist, it is not going to be possible without science and technology. And also, it's not going to be possible without more people getting into science and technology.
So, the sum up of your saying is that science and technology is important for the well-being of the people, and without science we cannot prosper.
I think it's a truism. I mean, it's like oxygen. Human being cannot survive without oxygen. In the same way, in coming years, I don't think anybody will be able to really, I mean, as a society, keep away science and technology and then say that we'll find a way, different way. But this doesn't mean that other aspects of our lives are lesser important. If you are to be a complete human being, you not only need material comfort, but also what you can call as spiritual comfort. For example, arts, literature. All these are also very, very important if you have to be a complete human being. But if you have to enjoy your art and if you have to access to literature, then you need certain material comfort, and that's what science and technology will provide. In addition to making us understand deep about our universe, who we are, what we are destined to.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot for your time and valuable insight into the potential and sphere of science.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.